proprietary and to develop in this way. And we in the IRC channels in TechBytes, we used to have a non-Microsoft employee called Joey in the UK, and he was working for Microsoft on a game. And he also had this argument with us about why you have to go proprietary, and we tried to explain to him, hold on, maybe most of the very profitable games are proprietary. It doesn't mean there is no other way to work and to collaborate. I mean, people would say, well, you could never make a good web browser. That's free software. I mean, look how many extremely good web browsers like Chrome and Firefox we have now, which are just truly, free software, and they have very high adoption rates. You have Android, you have Linux in all kinds of areas, especially servers, and that's free software. What about Apache? So it shows you can work with Apache with a huge number of companies, all of them donating employee time, and they donate all kinds of resources, and you have this extremely successful thing, which is better than the proprietary. We haven't got there as far as games are concerned, but you mustn't assume that what you know is the only way to persist within the framework where it's profitable. So it's kind of logical.
I chose my words very carefully because I said in the gaming industry. In my opinion, the utility market is completely different. That for utility, whether it's a word processor, a web browser, whatever, that's a code issue. That's somebody sitting down writing code. But games these days are so much more than just source code. If you look at things like Call of Duty, I don't know that my titles are modern games, but Call of Duties and Medal of Honors, they're all the same type of genre. They're all a first-person shooter. And it's not so much the code itself powering the game. It's the sprites, it's the sound effects, it's the storyline.
That actually strengthens my point. That actually strengthens my point, because you don't want them to work from scratch or to spend a lot of money, doing so-called licensing with companies to acquire things like a model of a plant to put in the game. Have you seen Sintel, the film, recently? I mean, this is an example where they use models and they share models, and they they basically form a new pool with lots of models, with chairs, with swords and people's faces, so you can take the face and you can modify that. And you back in 2004, when I was playing with these programs that do 3D rendering, I was playing with Povray. I could actually download trees and things, and it's basically free to use, and you can make all kinds of very nice scenes with that. What you have to get is a lot of momentum to produce for you all the things you want in a scene. And then you have companies that currently do it the way they do with GTA. They could actually go to these pools and find that it's a lot more efficient to use what's already available, to share it with companies, and to put what they produce back, at least some of it, toss it back in there. And then you get lots of momentum building behind these games, where people who worked really hard to make faces and everything actually exploited other people's work and reciprocated by putting some more output in there. So it's a bit like Linux in a kernel sense. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think one of the interesting differences here when choosing words is when people say professional or commercial, what they mean is, I want a company that I can phone and shout at when it goes wrong. Now, me personally, I want something that works better in the first place so that it doesn't go wrong as much. That's just me. That's why I use Linux. I mean, I might have a company on Windows that I could phone, a company that's on the Windows platform that I could phone and moan at, but I'd rather have it not go wrong in the first place.
Yeah, I just want to say a very quick thing. The software I use to record this conversation at the moment, I've usually been in person recording the shows. We've done about almost 25 hours of recording so far that went on the show, and we never had any issue with this program. This is a program I got for free. I think it's free software as well. And it just works. I never thought about how it works. I barely go to the menus. It just sits there and it records all the show. And it's been doing perfectly well for 25 hours of persistent recording. We don't actually script the show or plan the show. And we never had to paste things or to mess about with an issue which occurred because of this program. So that's an example of a free application that's just works, just as you see that Google usually works okay. You know, you can usually access Google and do the search, and it doesn't give you any funny errors, which cannot be said about Bing. You know, but Bing is running on top of Windows, and Windows is a so-called, some people might say, a professional operating system, because they like to say Linux is not professional and it's not commercial. You know, it's kind of like you don't really know who's behind Linux. So, but no, it just works better, and that's why using these words. I know the FSF is very much insisting on not using these weasel words, you know, like professionals and commercial, which is trying to say this is better, but actually referring to comparison between the proprietary and free as in freedom software options.
Yeah, a lot of these are just marketing words, like tagging the word Enterprise Edition onto something. It's just marketing.
Rich experience.
I remember, was it the Windows Server 2008, one of the features that they touted was it can now be run without a graphical interface. Like, why? Linux has been running like that for decades. Apache's been running on back-end servers with no X, no GUI, no nothing, just the server. And you've finally gotten round to thinking this is a good idea. Finally, you know, this is a feature of, I think it was Windows Server 2008. And I just thought that was hilarious.
I think to summarise my points, and Roy's touched on it, and so have you, Gordon. But you know, there is this definite distinction between the utility market or utility software and gaming. I think gaming has become more like Hollywood than Hollywood has. I think production values, if I don't get precise views now, I think with games now they're moving more into the Hollywood side of things. They're actually cinematic experiences, or that's what they try to be. Now, my question would be, and it's just sort of to back up my point, this is purely for the gaming industry. We've seen obviously how in the utilities market, open source alternatives are as good, or if not better, than proprietary alternatives. But certainly with the gaming, more like Hollywood than the Hollywood is. If I said to you, right, I've got an idea for a gaming project, a free and open source piece of software. It's going to be a game, and I want to bring in Patrick Stewart as a voiceover, and I want Bomb the Bass to do my music for me. That's where proprietary software comes in. This is the cost that gets added on. It's not so much the code. It's not so much even this rendering of the sprites. It's not even the technology involved in making the thing. It's actually the added value or the added extras that go into it to make it into a Hollywood experience, which is what
why do you think they're using Hollywood in some of these games? Why do you think they're using the studio?
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about technology side now. I'm actually talking about. Yeah. I'm actually talking about celebrities, Patrick Stewart doing my voiceover. Yeah. I'm talking about the added extras which add the production value.
Think about all these games or films you're talking about. In the studio, you have lots of Linux, and you have a good bit of free software and things working on top of Linux. So
I completely agree. And when I've produced my program, my latest game, which has run off code, maybe it's some code that's been contributed by 1,000 developers, but I've hired in my actors for the voiceovers, I've hired in my musicians, Bomb the Bass, just to pull a name out the air. How am I going to recruit that money with an open source ethos? How am I going to get my return?
You've forgotten one major element to this. It's not just the cost of hiring the actors and licensing music and all that. There's one really major drawback to doing any creative project out in the open, even this even applies to like the Blender Foundation as well, that do Sintel and An Elephant's Dream. And the thing is a storyline. Anything that's right, if you write a book, if you write a screenplay, if you do a TV show, a movie, a video game, or a cinematic video game, there's story there. Now, no one's going to want to play something if the community already have been involved in making and deciding, working out the scenes as they go along. They want to be told a story. They want to experience it as a story. That's why companies are so desperate, and movie companies are so desperate not to have spoilers put out there. They don't want it because people enjoy having a non-spoiled version of the story. Now, anytime you crowdsource that, it's not going to happen. That's why the whole in-house I mean, even the Blender Foundation, as much as they do a lot of stuff that they crowdsource, they essentially keep the storyline to themselves, to the little group of people who all work in the same office, all get together in the same office, and put things together essentially in secret